Newspapers have been around for a long time. They are a necessary and important part of media. People still depend on newspapers to get news, whether it be through print or online. Before electronic devices, print newspapers were the only way to get news. So what are newspapers? Newspapers are publications of current news, commonly consisting of politics, sports, and economy content. Newspapers still have a huge impact on our daily lives, even though the majority of newspaper content is viewed online. The first American newspaper, Public Occurrences, started in Boston in 1690 and was immediately shut down because it was published without authority because it had contained a lot of censorship. The first successful newspaper was the Boston Newsletter, started by John Campbell in 1704. By the beginning of the Revolutionary War, there were 24 different papers in print, and by the end of the war, there were 43 different newspapers in circulation. By 1890, newspapers began to contain bold banner headlines, extensive use of illustrations, and funny pages. Expanded coverage of organized sporting events also became popular at this time. In the late 1800s, yellow journalism became popular. Yellow journalism is classified as a type of journalism that makes allegations without providing much, if any, information. This era of journalism had later provided the roots for investigative reporting. The New York Times was the first publication in 1896 to distance themselves from yellow journalism. They focused on documentation of major events and developed the inverted pyramid style. Newspapers became responsible for providing major breaking stories of interest. Newspapers have begun to decline in recent years for a number of reasons, one being that it is just easier to read online or off of a news app than reading the print paper. Newspapers have strengths such as credibility and reliability in their sources and articles. The paper part of newspapers might be dying, but the news part is still alive and well. We went around campus and asked students and faculty if they read newspapers regularly and how they get their news.
Yes. The New York Times, I try daily where possible, though I have to admit sometimes it slips to 2 days, unless you count digital equivalents, like if I can check bbc.com or newyorktimes.com, and usually the national, international. I used to check Philadelphia Inquirer for local, but Philadelphia Inquirer is okay. Not my favorite, but it's okay.
I do not. Twitter, mostly.
No. I talk to people, and I talk to my family, and people at school to figure out what's going on.
No, Twitter or different social media.
I do. I usually read them probably a couple times a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Mostly the top stories and the entertainment section.
I do prefer where possible, but logistically sometimes I default to the online version. It's simply easier, it's portable. I could pull out a cell phone and just read the article right now. Yesterday's bombing in St. Petersburg, I found that entirely through apps. I found that entirely through briefs through online forums. So had it not been for those, I wouldn't even known about it until the next morning. So in that way, I kind of try and balance the two. I do prefer the print version, but because news, of course, is happening all the time, and there may be events of major moment that are instantaneous, it is helpful to have something that can be updated throughout the day.
I do prefer reading the print version, but I don't actually have a subscription, so I end up reading them online, although I would rather have it in front of me reading it.
I generally prefer to read on the sources website itself, actual sources, because I can at least be confident in the quality of the journalism, the report.
I read on the website.
Use apps.
I think what alarms me more is the decline of objectivity. That's what frightens me. I think as newspapers have been brushed aside, you're seeing that. You're starting to see polemics, you're starting to see really partisan, I'm not even going to call it journalism, just ranting. And people are taking that to be truth. And it's above and beyond being irresponsible. It's dangerous.
I think it is not so good because it means people like me are not informed through proper sources, and that could be a problem.
It's sad because the newspaper industry is probably going to end up going out of business, but that's just what technology's taking over, so that's just how it is.
I think it's declined maybe in our use of it, but I think journalism is excelling, especially right now.
We're going to end this video with a question for you, the viewers. Where do you get your news and how do you think that will change in the future?